What's going on, everybody? UFC 327 goes down this weekend, and this is going to be my picks for who I think is going to win each respective fight. This is not going to be the betting show. If you want to see that stuff, go watch previous videos, recaps for all of that. Not going to be able to do one of those this week because of my travel schedule that I mentioned. I'll be out of town Thursday through Sunday, so probably won't be able to do a recap show very early either, but we'll worry about when that time comes. For now, we're just going to be talking about UFC 327, and I'm excited for this card, as I'm sure a lot of people are. It did take a hit, losing Tatsuro Taira and Joshua Van fighting for the flyweight title, but thankfully that just got rebooked to UFC 328, and honestly, I think it's kind of not mutually beneficial, but it's better for 328 because the title fight, the marquee event there with Sean Strickland, Khamzat Chimaev, and you know, there's a chance Sean Strickland makes that competitive if he's able to keep it on the feet. But there's also a chance it's literally a mirror image of what Khamzat did to DDP. And people are going to go out on kind of a sour note because that would not be very entertaining to watch. So, you know, the fact that Taira and Van is on that card now, you're almost guaranteed to have a pretty entertaining title fight. Joshua Van and Tatsuro Taira are both exciting fighters. I'm fans of both of them. I'm a little salty at Josh Van because I bet big on Alexandre Pantoja when they fought, and he obviously won due to a dislocated elbow. So a little bit salty at Joshua Van. It's a kind of a fluke championship to me, but I still think he's a good fighter, super entertaining. So although 327 took a hit losing that fight, I think it boosts 328 up even more. And 327, based on the bounce on this, and you know the main event's going to be violence, I think it's going to be a good card regardless. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in. First fight is Chuck Buffalo, Charles Radke, and Francisco Prado. Going off the Tapology bout list, as always. This one, don't really have a strong opinion on, but I'm going to go Charles Radke here simply because I think he is the much more well-rounded fighter, and you know, he's 35, so he's probably not in his prime anymore, but you know, he's basically at his ceiling, and him at his ceiling as a finished product, I think, is a level above, maybe not a level above, but is better than Francisco Prado right now. Francisco Prado came into the UFC extremely young, and I believe he was fighting at lightweight. Now he's up at welterweight. He's 1-4 in the UFC, super young still, 23 years old, so plenty of time for him to turn his career around. And he might get it here as an underdog to, you know, Charles Radke. Charles Radke isn't a great fighter, but I do think he's solid. You know, he's got good power in the hands, good wrestling, good jiu-jitsu. So I think he's just more, like I said, more well-rounded at this point, more experienced, and has been winning in the UFC. I really liked what he did in his last fight against Daniel Frunze, going out there and get the submission. Not to mention, he's been in there with some really, really good fighters. Mike Malott, Carlos Prates is a big one. So, you know, he's been there, albeit he's gotten finished by both of those guys, but been in there with some really good comp. And again, I just think he's way more well-rounded, way more, you know, game at this point. Francisco Prado is still pretty green. You know, still plenty of time to improve at 23 years old, but I think Charles Radke gets this one done. Probably decision, but, you know, he does hold some decent power. Maybe he could find a knockout. But I'm going to say Charles Radke gets it done by decision. Next fight is a battle of some OGs. Kelvin Gastelum versus Vicente Luque. Luque moving up to middleweight, and I don't think it's going to work out good for him here. I know KG is one of those guys who seemingly doesn't take fighting super seriously. He always misses weight. And if you looked at this guy's physique, you would never have guessed that this guy was once fighting for titles and is still a relevant force in the middleweight division, albeit not ranked or title contender anymore, but is still going to rattle off wins. And I think he gets a win here over Vicente Luque. The thing about KG is, as long as he avoids this fight going to the ground and putting his head and neck into a bad area and getting choked out by Vicente Luque, I don't really see a path to victory for Luque here. The striking is going to be on the side of Gastelum by quite a decent margin. And Gastelum, this dude was taking absolute missiles from Joe Pyfer, who just finished Israel Adesanya, and was able to stay in there and go to a decision against Joe Pyfer. if Joe Pyfer can't knock him out, Vicente Luque is not knocking him out. And I really don't like Luque coming up. He just hasn't been the same. I've heard multiple people say this too in this breakdown. The brain bleed that he suffered after getting his ass kicked by Jeff Neal, it really seemed to, as you would maybe assume from an injury like that, just really kind of not ruined, but put his career on a downward trajectory, and it has not gone up since then. I don't really like the move to middleweight for him. His chin really isn't great at this point. If it wasn't holding up at welterweight, it's certainly not going to hold up at middleweight. I guess you could say he went to a decision with Joel Alvarez, but I think Joel Alvarez kind of let up towards the end of that fight because he might have felt bad for Vicente Luque. He was absolutely putting it on him. I could see a knockout here for Kelvin Gastelum, but I think at this point in his career, KG maybe not going to hunt the finishes as much, but he's going to have the big striking advantage. I think he can avoid the takedowns, and even if he does get to the ground, avoid the submissions, and he's going to do much more damage on the feet. I really have a hard time seeing Luque hanging with him there. So give me KG by decision here in the battle of some middleweight unks, even though this is Luque's first fight at middleweight. Next fight should be a good one. Markel Medeiros and Chris Padilla. Taco Padilla is 4-0 in the UFC, and I believe all four of those fights, if not all four, then definitely 3 out of the 4, were as underdogs. I cashed on him in his last fight against Ishmael Bonfim as an underdog in that fight as well. And now he's coming in as the favorite to Markel Medeiros, who is a solid fighter, pretty good prospect, but I don't really rate Markel Medeiros' wins that well. His last win was over Mark Chewinski. And, he's a decent point fighter. I like his striking, but I think Chris Padilla is just better all around. He's got good boxing, good jiu-jitsu, can grapple a little bit. So my only worry here is that, the public's kind of on him now. He's cashed as a dog many times, or multiple times, I should say, and now he's coming in as a favorite. It's kind of like Ramiz Brahimaj from a few weeks ago. What was that? UFC Houston, where he was an underdog and was winning fights, comes in as a favorite, and then gets beaten. So hopefully not the case here, but to me, this is going to be really close. I could see a split decision or 29-28 either way, but I'm going to side with Chris Padilla. I think he's going to land the more damaging shots, and he definitely has the upside if he does choose to grapple and wrestle here. I think he can win the minutes. I really don't see Marco Medeiros putting out Chris Padilla on the feet either. And again, this is just smelling to me like a 29-28, maybe a split decision, but either way the coin, I'm going to go Chris Padilla here as a favorite, not as an underdog. I'm going to say Chris Padilla gets it done by decision. So unfortunately, I'm saying 3 straight decisions here to start off the card. We're coming off a card last week, the Apex, the one that everyone was shitting on, and a lot of people shit on the Apex cards, but there was finishes, hot and ready out of the gate in this one, and these next couple fights, I'm projecting decision. So for this one, give me Chris Padilla by decision, 29-28, maybe even a split over Marco Medeiros. That should be a really good fight. Next fight is Tatiana Suarez and Lupita Godinez. Lupi Godinez is probably one of the more popular dog shots that I've seen this week, simply because Suarez, early in her career, she looked like an absolute world beater. Then the injuries and stuff happened, and she's been on a downward trend since then. She lost to Zhang Weili, which not really any sweat off your back there, but even in a win, did not look good against Amanda Lemos. So I can get where people are fading Tatiana Suarez here, and especially if Lupi Godinez can stuff the takedowns and keep this fight on the feet. She's going to have the big striking advantage. And I believe Lupi Godinez's sister is like an Olympic wrestler or something like that. But for me, Lupi Godinez has got some terrible fight IQ, and you're going to hear a lot of people say that, but they say it for a reason. It is true. She is not exactly known to follow good game plans there in the cage, and I just think Tatiana Suarez, even at this stage in her career, if you want to say she's past her prime, whatever, I think she's going to be way bigger and way more physical in there and is going to get the takedowns going. And her striking's not horrible. Definitely advantage of Godinez in that department, but I think Suarez could hold up there. And I just see this playing out really similar to, Virna Jandiroba and Tabitha Ricci, where, maybe it's not a ton of damage on the side of Tatiana Suarez, but she's going to be able to manhandle Lupe Godinez. Even past her prime, I think she's going to be way bigger, way stronger in this case. Godinez is a good athlete. She's way more solid all around. And, I could certainly see this being 29-28 close. I don't, blame people for going Godinez here, especially if she can have a good fight IQ and follow a good game plan and keep the fight on the feet. I could definitely see her winning this, but my heart is telling me that Tatiana Suarez is going to get this one done 29-28. Another decision. I just think she's going to be way too physically imposing with the wrestling, even at this stage in her career. And I just can't trust Lupe Godinez. So give me Tatiana Suarez by decision here over Lupe Godinez. Next fight, another popular dog shot. Esteban Ribovic against Mateusz Gamrot. A lot of people are on the Ribovic sides. I think the primary reason is because the damage factor certainly favors Ribovic here. I mean, he's a pretty fun striker in some exciting fights. And Mateusz Gamrot coming off of that submission loss to Charles Oliveira, so, not going to knock him too much. I mean, Mateusz Gamrot has been near the top or kind of that middle pack of the lightweight division for a while now. And, wrestling base, really, really good with the takedowns. He's got some decent striking, too. He's got 8 TKO knockouts in his career. So I don't want to underrate his striking, but definitely, especially in this fight, his advantage is going to be with the wrestling. I believe Ribovic has been taken out in every fight that he's been in for the most part. If not, certainly early on in his career, he was getting taken down a ton. I'm going to go Gamrot here. I really think he's just going to be able to manhandle Ribovic with the ground game. And this is just such a huge step up in competition for a guy who, at this point, their best win, you could say, is Terrence McKinney. Like, I know Terrence McKinney is fucking live against anyone on the planet in the first 90 seconds of a fight. I mean, you could throw him in there right now with Ilia Topuria. I know this is going to sound crazy, but those first 60 to 90 seconds, Terrence McKinney is fucking live, man. Like, 9 times out of 10 does Ilia Topuria catch him with a check counter hook and knock his ass out in 40 seconds? Yes, but there's that chance with Terrence McKinney, but that's like his best win so far. He knocked him out in 37 seconds. I mean, his UFC debut, he got taken down a lot by Loic Radzhabov. And he lost a split to Nasrat Haqparast, who just got head kicked by Quillen Salkiel. I know that's not a bad loss, but I mean, beating Daniel Zellhuber in a split, and then you beat Elvis Brenner. Like, your best wins are McKinney, Zellhuber, and Elvis Brenner. And now you're fighting Mateusz Gamrot, who, yes, did not look good against Charles Oliveira, but look what Charles Oliveira just did to Max Holloway, who is like the version of Esteban Ribovic, except 3 times better. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to knock Gamrot there. I know judges, again, I've said this before, I'm on board with this. They seem to be favored damaging when it comes to the scoring. So I could see this being close, but I could also see Gamrot absolutely dominating here with the wrestling. I'm sure Ribovic is improving a lot in that regard. He's with Killcliff, which is a pretty good gym. But I just think this is too much. And he's never fought a ranked guy before, and now you're giving him Gamrot, who, had he beaten Oliveira, I know he didn't, but if he did, he would be on the fringe of a title shot. And Gamrot's like always been there, and he's the gamer because he's always game. And I really think he's going to get the takedowns going here. And again, his striking to me is a little bit underrated to begin with, so I could see him, definitely not having the advantage when it's on the feet, but I could see him peppering Ribovic with some good shots and doing some damage there as well, and then get the takedowns going to secure a decision. So I'm going to say another decision, a 5th straight decision here, but give me Mateusz Gamrot by decision over Esteban Ribovic. But I definitely understand where people are coming from with the Ribovic dog shot, especially if he can stuff takedowns. He's going to accrue the more damage on the feet, but I'm going to go with the veteran Mateusz Gamrot here. Next fight, 1-800-GAMBLER hotline fight here because it involves Kevin Holland going up against Randy Brown. I'm going to be quick with this one. I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm going to go Kevin Holland, and I think he's going to submit Randy Brown. Randy Brown, to me, he did not look good at all in his last fight against Gabriel Bonfim. He got knocked out. I know Kevin Holland has been putting up some absolute stinkers lately. I mean, how can you get that D-Rod fight out of your head? That was an absolute shit performance. And then, he just lost to Mike Malott by decision. But something's telling me this is just a spot where everyone's going to be fading Kevin Holland. You're getting this fight I think Holland's a slight dog, but it's almost a pick 'em. So you're going to get good value on Randy Brown here if you chose to go that route. A lot of people will be fading Kevin Holland, mostly due to that D-Rod fight, but 2 straight losses after he lost to Mike Malott. Randy Brown, yeah, Gabriel Bonfim, that's not a terrible loss. Didn't look good though. So I think a lot of people are going to be on Randy Brown. A lot of people probably share the same sentiment that they never want to back Kevin Holland again in a fight. This dude is completely unpredictable. He'll have fights where he goes out there and looks like one of the best middleweights or welterweights in the world. Then he'll have other fights where he looks like a debuting guy who took a fight on short notice and just gets absolutely schooled in there. So I get that it's hard to back Kevin Holland, but I'm going to do it here. I think he has the big advantage with the jiu-jitsu. I really think if this fight goes to the ground, he is going to be able to either submit or just control and do ground and pound and land damage on Randy Brown here. It's a coin flip fight for me, but I think a lot of people are going to be fading Kevin Holland. I don't blame you if you are, but I'm going to back him on a dog shot here. Give me Kevin Holland. I absolutely hate it. I almost threw up in my mouth thinking about that. But I'm going to say Kevin Holland gets it done by submission over Randy Brown. That's going to be my first finish prediction here for UFC 327. But we're going to get the finishes, like the first 5 fights, all decisions. Now we're going to get the finishes going because the next fight, Patricio Pitbull is getting knocked out by Aaron Pico. Aaron Pico, I faded him against Lerone Murphy. Murphy was the underdog in that fight. I'm having trouble freaking speaking, man. It's late at night. Give me a break. I faded him in that. And until that spinning elbow, I was like, God damn, I get why this guy going up against Lerone Murphy was the favorite because he looked really fucking good. And that's the case with Aaron Pico in almost all of his fights. He always looks really fucking good, and then he gets over aggressive and caught. I mean, this guy could be a champion. He really could be. He is super, super strong, great wrestling, great power in the hands, good boxing. I mean, he's got everything. Everything you asked for, check the box. Aaron Pico's got it, but he's got a glass chin. And I know Patricio Pitbull definitely possesses the ability to counter and knock out Aaron Pico here. So this is definitely a volatile pick and one that maybe I shouldn't be as confident in as I am. But I think Aaron Pico's knocking out Patricio Pitbull. This is like 2 Bellator legends. Like Pitbull's like arguably the Bellator GOAT. Pico had a really good run in Bellator. So if this fight was like 3 or 4 years ago, I definitely probably consider Pitbull a little bit more here. But at this stage, I think Pitbull's 39. Aaron Pico, I like that he took a good amount of time off after his knockout loss to Lerone Murphy. And listen, man, I know it's probably impossible for him to go away from the strategy that he takes because he seems to do it in every fight. But if he is more measured and just keeps the pressure on without doing something stupid, which I know, kind of contradict one another, but I really think he's going to knock out Patricio Pitbull here. I faded him in his debut, but I have been waiting on Aaron Pico to get rebooked. From what I saw those first 3.5 minutes of that fight with Lerone Murphy where he was putting the pressure on, looking good with the striking, looking good with the wrestling, I have been waiting on a chance to back this guy in his second UFC fight. Pitbull is a good opponent, not one to be taken lightly, but it's a 39-year-old Pitbull. If this was a 34, 35-year-old, I'd be way less confident Pico here, but I think Aaron Pico gets on track here, knocks out Patricio Pitbull, and I'm really excited for this fight because either way, it's going to be Pitbull, a Bellator legend, landing another flash KO on Aaron Pico, or it's Aaron Pico looking dominant and getting his first UFC win, and really starting to rise up the rankings. So I'm excited for this fight. And like I said, I've been waiting for a chance to back Aaron Pico after that loss, after I faded him in his debut. Looked really good. Looked like I was going to be an idiot. And then all of a sudden he gets spinning elbowed to, oblivion. And now I get my chance to back him here. I think he's the biggest favorite on the card, which was a little surprising to me, but I'm going to back him here. Give me Aaron Pico by knockout. Next fight, two more OGs here. Cub Swanson in his retirement fight going up against Nate Landwehr. Who knows? This could be Landwehr's retirement fight too. I'm going to take a dog shot on Cub Swanson here. And I just think, Landwehr definitely has the pressure and ability to make this fight dirty. I think one of these OGs is getting knocked out, man. But I'm going to favor Cub Swanson here. I've really liked what's been coming out of his gym lately. Larian Douglas is coming out of there. I can't think of others off the top of my head. Larian Douglas is the first guy I thought of because he just fought. But his gym's been looking really good. And usually when these guys, when their gyms are doing good, it usually tells you about the quality of the rest of the fighters in that gym. I mean, look at the rise of the fighting nerds. Okay, I know that's like an extreme example, but Cub Swanson in his retirement fight, I mean, he's coming off a knockout win over Billy Quarantillo. Yeah, I pronounced that right. Nate Landwehr just got knocked out by Morgan Charrier. I think both these guys are going to march forward and trade. I just favor Cub Swanson with the boxing exchanges and, to land the bigger power shots. I mean, Nate Landwehr is definitely live here to get a knockout. Either way you go with this, I think an older guy is getting knocked out in this fight. But I'm going to lead with Cub Swanson in the retirement fight. He's legend might be a stretch, but he's a really, really respectable fighter, great career. I'm going to back him here as an underdog in his retirement fight against Nate Landwehr. I'm going to say he gets it done by knockout in the second round. Give me Cub Swanson, second round TKO over Nate Landwehr. Next fight is... This is just fucking a car crash. It's like, it's going to car crash because you can't look away from it and you're low-key excited to see it happen. Dominic Reyes and Johnny Walker. And I'm going with Johnny Walker to knock out Dominic Reyes, and I absolutely hate it. But I just think Dominic Reyes, well, both these guys are fucking chinny. Who am I to say neither of these guys are chinny? They're the chinniest chins that ever chinned in light heavyweight right now. But I don't know. Like Johnny Walker, he's so unpredictable, and Dominic Reyes is more of this like technical guy, counter strike, has a more measured approach. And I just see Johnny Walker throwing some wild shit. And yes, I say this, and he could easily get countered and knocked out in the first 2.5 minutes. No problem. I look like an idiot, but something's telling me Johnny Walker's going to land like a flying knee or like a spinning elbow or something crazy to get a highlight knockout over Dominic Reyes. I mean, either way, somebody's going to be getting REM sleep in the middle of the octagon at the end of this fight. Whether that's in the first round or maybe middle second, whatever it is. I mean, everyone's going to be all over the under 1.5 rounds in this. Everyone's going to be all over fight to, not go the distance, whatever it is, fight to end by knockout. And there's merit to that. These guys recently in their careers have been getting nothing but chinned. I mean, Dominic Reyes was on her resurgence until he got knocked out by the guy fighting for the title later in this card. Johnny Walker was getting chinned by everyone. And then he goes out there and beats Zhang Minyang as like a 5-1 underdog. So, or maybe not 5-1, but like 3 or 4-1. Just chopped away at his leg. Zhang Minyang looked like he never took a calf kick in his life. And Walker finds the TKO after that. So, I mean, Johnny Walker shot like Khamzat Chimaev at the beginning of that fight. So who the fuck knows what you're going to get out of Johnny Walker in this fight. But I'm going to take the credit. I like Johnny Walker. I think he's so entertaining. I like his brother too. I think they're beefing right now. I don't really know why. Dominic Reyes, I mean, he gave John Jones his best fight ever. So I'm probably going to look like an idiot for this. Like, I'm not going to lie. I'm not very confident in Johnny Walker at all. But I just see him in Miami, first round, flying knee or an elbow, knocking out Dominic Reyes, and then probably doing the worm or some shit in the middle of the octagon. But give me Johnny Walker by knockout over Dominic Reyes. The new featured bout on the card, now that the previous featured bout got moved up to the co-main, Curtis Blaze and Josh Hokett. Boy, I'm kind of torn on this because part of me thinks this is just too much too soon, but Josh Hokett has looked really fucking good in his fights, albeit against Max Jimenez and fucking Denzel Freeman. But this dude is clearly an athlete. Sometimes these lighter heavyweights with great cardio and great athleticism can have some really, really good careers. Cain Velasquez, I think that's been a common comparison. Although by no means is Josh Hogan Cain Velasquez. But I am going to go Curtis Blades in this fight because I get why they're doing this. Josh Hogan is, some of his post-fight shit is cringy to me. Some of it's funny, some of it's cringy. He sells fights. He's been running all over guys. Contender Series, UFC debut, the Denzel Freeman fight. I mean, he has looked dominant. The personality, whether you love him or hate him, you're going to watch him fight. I just think this is too much. I mean, Curtis Blades has been doing nothing but fighting championship-level fighters for the last few years. I mean, he's never going to be a guy to win a championship. Obviously, we saw him when he got his shot against Tom Aspinall. He got knocked out in the first round. Arguably he lost that fight. I wouldn't even say arguably. I would say he lost that fight to Rizvan Kuniev. But someone said he had or he might have said it, he had torn MCL or some kind of injury during that fight. Who knows, but I'll tend to believe the guy. I just think this is way too much for Josh Hogan right now. I think Josh Hogan is going to be a ranked fighter this year. I think he's going to be in the top 10, fringe top 5 this year. And maybe it happens here. Maybe I'm just not seeing the greatness of Josh Hogan quite yet. I mean, I definitely see this guy being in the rankings this year. Don't get me wrong. But again, Curtis Blades is a guy, ton of experience. He's super huge. He's really good in the wrestling. So I don't think Josh Hogan's just going to be able to run him over like he has the last couple opponents. And, I mean, Curtis Blades has gotten a lot of knockouts over his career too. So either way, I think someone's going to get finished here, whether it's Curtis Blades, getting full mount and raining down ground and pound, or Josh Hogan. I don't think Josh Hogan really has big power in the hands. I think it's the volume that overwhelms guys, not necessarily the power. So I could see Hogan maybe landing like a volume TKO, whatever it may be. But I'm going to go Curtis Blades here. I think he's going to get a ground and pound TKO in the second round over Josh Hogan. I just think it's too much too soon, but this could also be a fight I would not be mad if I'm wrong on, because that means Josh Hogan all of a sudden becomes top 6 or top 5 in heavyweight, and we got a potential superstar at heavyweight, which is what the division needs. But I'm going to go Curtis Blades here. I wish I could say I was taking Josh Hogan just because I think it would be fun, but I think this is way too. I mean, again, Max Jimenez and Denzel Freeman to Curtis Blades, I can't see it. So give me Curtis Blades by second round TKO. Co-main is Azamat Murzakanov and Paulo Costa. And I think Paulo Costa is going to make this fight interesting. I really don't think he's going to get ran over by Murzakanov, which is what, the professional or whatever his nickname is, has been doing recently. I mean, he just knocked out Alexander Rakic with basically a jab. I mean, he's got insane power and great speed for light heavyweight. I think Paulo Costa moving up for middleweight, he might have that lighter man skill, right? So I think the speed won't be a super huge discrepancy, but Paulo Costa does have a granite chin, other than when he got finished by Israel Adesanya, prime Izzy. If that was current Izzy and current Izzy's fight IQ, it looked bad, but I'm going to say Murzakanov wins a decision here. I don't think he's going to knock out Paulo Costa. I could really see Costa, especially in the third round, maybe even start to take over and keep this thing close. So part of me wanted to go Paulo Costa by decision here, and maybe we'll look into a sprinkle on that. But I'm going to say Murzakanov gets it done. I mean, he could absolutely knock out Costa. That's definitely in the cards here with Murzakonov's power and the speed. But I think Costa's going to be able to avoid that, and he's got the chin for it. So while I don't think Costa wins, I do see him winning round 3 if it does get there. But I think Murzakanov will do enough damage early in the fight to get a judge's decision here. 29-28, give me Azamat Murzakanov by decision over Paulo Costa, though I would not write off Paulo Costa in this spot. Finally, the main event, Carlos Ulberg and Yuri Prochazka. This is going to be a fucking awesome fight. I'm so excited for this. When I tell you I wish I could just come out here and say confidently, Yuri Prochazka is going to win. He's going to knock out Carlos Ulberg, and he's going to be champion again. I love Yuri Prochazka. I love watching him fight. He's never in a boring fight. He's intense. The fans love him. But he is so damn hittable early. And I know that's like part of his game. That's what he did against Khalil Roundtree. And that's pretty much what he's done against everyone not named Alex Pereira. I get it. He has not lost to anyone in the UFC other than Alex Pereira. So how can I pick against him here? Well, I just think at some point that style is going to get him knocked out by someone other than Alex Pereira. And I think it's going to be here against Carlos Ulberg. I mean, Carlos Ulberg looks close enough to Alex Pereira. You know, that's the only reason I'm picking up. No, I'm just playing. But I just, Yuri is so hittable. And again, that's kind of his game, right? He weathers the storm and then he puts the pressure on. And later, round 2, 3, 4, 5, if it gets there, right? The only guy he couldn't do that against was Poatan because Poatan's got otherworldly power. But we saw it against Khalil Roundtree. I mean, he was down 2 rounds in that fight. And I know he came back in the 3rd and got the finish and gets this title shot. And everyone loves him for it. I love him for it too, okay? I really wish... I'm not going to be mad if I'm wrong here. And I will look like an idiot if I am wrong because I'm definitely going to be in the minority with taking Carlos Ulberg here. Not that Carlos Ulberg is a dislikable guy. I don't think people hate him. But, you know, he's a lot less experienced. And he's, quite frankly, been a lot less high-profile, you know, entertaining fights than Yuri Prochazka. So I get why people are going to be all over Prochazka, especially at the value. It's basically a pick-em right now. Prochazka, I think, is a slight favorite. So I wish I could just come out here and say, you know, Prochazka's been here before. He's going to get his belt back. This is insane value. Jump on it right now. But something's telling me Carlos Ulberg, who is a fantastic counter striker, something tells me he's going to check him in the 1st or 2nd round. And the crowd is going to be going wild, but there's going to be a lot of people in bars across the country that go silent because I feel like a lot of people at the price are going to be all over Yuri Prochazka. And I'm not saying it's a bad bet. In fact, I, again, could very well end up looking like an idiot and maybe overthinking this one, whatever. And Prochazka wins, knocks out Ulberg in the 3rd round or something like that. But, you know, either way you go with this fight, I have a hard time seeing it not end by knockout. That's something I'm pretty confident on, almost certain. But I just think Carlos Ulberg is going to check him with something, maybe a kick high, or, you know, he's got a pretty nasty left hook, kind of similar to Alex Pereira. Obviously not that level, but I don't know. This just seems, I just got this gut feeling, man. And obviously, you know, there's merit to it. Carlos Ulberg is on a crazy win streak right now. If he didn't gas out in his UFC debut, he would have finished Kennedy and Nzechukwu. And if that was the case, he'd be coming to this 14-0, maybe a little bit more hype. Maybe more people would be looking into this. And I get he has not faced nearly the level of comp as, you know, Yuri Prochazka has. Yuri Prochazka has fought, you know, Glover Teixeira, Jamal Hill, whatever you want to say about current version of Jamal Hill. Just recently, Khalil Roundtree, Poatan twice. I get all that. Carlos Ulberg's best win is probably Dominic Reyes. If that was Dominic Reyes 5 years ago, you'd be like, holy shit. But this version, even though he was on a resurgence at that point, it's not the same. But I just see Carlos Ulberg winning this by a counter strike knockout, you know, a hook or whatever it may be. Prochazka is just there to be hit early. I will say if he doesn't get him out of there early, Prochazka is going to take over and knock him out later in the fight. But I'm going to go Carlos Ulberg here by 2nd round knockout. Not the result that a lot of people are going to want. Again, not that Ulberg's unlikable, but just because Yuri's so damn popular. And I'm definitely, you know, for those that do watch this and comment, I'm definitely going to get shit for this if I'm wrong. I get it. I'm not arguing with that. I like Yuri too, but something's telling me Carlos Ulberg is going to knock him out here and become the new light heavyweight champion. So, you know, depending on the state of light heavyweight, maybe you could, you know, run it back. Maybe not immediately, but Yuri has another #1 contenders fight and then gets back in there. Also did not realize Carlos Ulberg was older than Prochazka. If you looked at these guys' records, you would think Ulberg is 8 years younger than Prochazka, but he's actually 2 years older, which is crazy. But that just shows how long Yuri's been fighting professionally. I mean, this guy, he's a samurai, like Joe Rogan's certainly going to say. I get it. He's popular. I like him too. I'm not even really like happy with myself for making this pick, but I got to go with what I see and what I'm feeling. And what I'm feeling is Carlos Ulberg getting a knockout in the second round and becoming the new light heavyweight champion. But if it doesn't happen, like I said, Yuri will take over and eventually knock him out. Either way, the coin, someone's going to get knocked out here. It's going to be a fun fight. I'm going to go Carlos Ulberg. So that'll do it for my picks. We'll have them ranked here. How many bouts do we got? 12. So 1 through 12 based off of confidence. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. The last couple cards I've not been great at just pure picking the fights. Win-loss record has not been super stellar, but hopefully we have a good record this week. There's some close fights, man, so I feel like there's going to be some people that do really well. There's going to be some people that do really bad. Hopefully I'm one of those in the former. We'll see, though. But anyway, that'll do it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please enjoy the fights this weekend. It should be a great card. If you do choose to gamble on them, please bet responsibly. Only bet what you can afford to lose. And yeah, all that jazz. So anyway, that'll do it for me. And I'll see you guys next week, hopefully early when we do our recap. Until then, my name is Jake. Goodbye.